Hey, hey, hey. Happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, interestingly enough, gaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. And more interestingly enough, this month we are sponsored by Rollacrit. And I will talk about our sponsor in just a little bit. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Thursday, August 15th, 2024. This is live show 1087. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. Normally, we just hang out talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then I will pontificate on a topic which is related to our hobby. And tonight, I am going to ponder if Advanced Dungeons & Dragons is still worth playing in 2024. And if you follow the show, you probably already know my answer to that. But we're going to discuss, and hopefully those in chat are going to take part and share their thoughts as well. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube, such as Sammy's recent wave of Starfinder and Pathfinder reviews. Had a brand new one pop up early this morning. So I think over the past week, there have been 4, if memory serves. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And of course, because this is a live show, that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 10 minutes. I know, an eternity these days, right? In order to take part in chat. Yet another way that I try to keep some of those more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight is good friend of the show and chat moderator, the madman, Chris Burkhart, Tessie Trekkie, Gleam1RX, Keithulu, DB, Kevin R. Smith, Wallona's Cave, Jose Fernandez. They are all with us in chat. Chat is off and running already. Very nice. And of course, I will take a wild guess that the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D might also be lurking in the shadows, as she is another of our chat moderators, and she uses the glittery banhammer. So behave. Anyway, let's talk about this month's sponsor. That's right, because the Gaming Gang Dispatch is sponsored by our friends over at Rollacrit. Yes, Rollacrit is our sponsor, and why didn't this change? Ta-da, there we go. Slap this thing around. Of course, Windows just updated 5 minutes before I started the stream. So fingers crossed. Because you know what happens, never fails. We have a Microsoft update for Windows, and it messes around with something with the stream. Anyway, Rollacrit is our sponsor this month, and they are the home of the newly redesigned Bag of Holding. And I've been promising we were going to take a closer look at the bag of holding. And I am a man of my word because here it is. Yes. Lovely, lovely. Now I know the Madman just ordered one of these and received it. I believe it was last week. I think if I remember correctly, he had mentioned he'd gotten his on Friday. So this is a heavy-duty messenger bag, and it's got loads and loads of pockets. Now, this is exactly what you'll receive if you were to order the bag of holding. So this is the shoulder strap that comes with it. So we have a padded shoulder strap. We've got the Rollacrit 20-sided die on here. We have a pocket on this side, and you can adjust it to open that up. You can also make sure to keep it closed. On this side here, we've got, if you're bringing, say, a map holder, something like that. I don't think I would put a drink in here because I think that would just fall right through. But we also have these here to tighten this up. So let's take a peek inside. So first off, we got pockets galore. So we've got a pocket here, and then the lining, you can see that the lining itself also has the Rollacrit 20-sided die on it. Here are those charms. That's what they are. They're zipper charms that I had mentioned yesterday. I have little swords. I haven't put them on these zippers like so. So we actually have little hexagonal openings on all the zippers. Let's close this back up. All right. What is going on? What are you caught on? There we go. And open this up. So then we've got this pocket here. So we've got a big old pocket. I will say that Aaron Zipperly of Rollacrit had one of these. It was like his personal bag he was carrying around at Gen Con, and it was just packed. I mean, it was like overflowing, and it was carrying tons of stuff. As you can see here, the snaps are heavy duty, so those will hold up very nicely. Then we also have another opening here, just like so, and then we've got a trio of pockets here, so you can put your dice, your phone. I also have a little electronics. I don't want to say bag. It's kind of an accessory that goes onto the shoulder strap that you can put your cell phone into. So I've got that. And then we have our big interior section here. So we've got a pocket here. This is essentially designed to be a laptop or tablet pocket if you want to use it for that. So we've got that. And then taking a look at the back of the bag. This has a snap. You can slide a couple of books or what have you into there. I mean, this has all these little pockets and stuff for you to put stuff on into. There's even what appears to be like for rain. Like if it's raining, you could put this on here. So, and it is designed to be used as a backpack as well. So I wouldn't personally use it as a backpack because I just use a regular backpack. This I would use as a shoulder bag, as a messenger bag. So really, really nicely done. As the Madman is pointing out, he is really impressed with it so far with the one he's got. Now, I also had mentioned that I had gotten some other goodies. One of them I've got down here. This is the gelatinous cube shoulder strap with another heavy-duty shoulder cushion that goes with that too. So really, really nice. There is another shoulder strap that you can get, which has kind of like charms. I don't know if they're patches. That's what they are. So patches for Gen Con. And if I bring it to Gen Con every year, they are going to have another badge, which they will actually put on the shoulder strap absolutely free. So I thought that was kind of cool. So that is the bag of holding, and it carries an MSRP of $150. So wanted to share that, give you a closer look at this as opposed to just having it hanging behind me on every show. There we go. There we go. Shauna is with us in chat trying to talk about some backpack he got at Walmart. Well, Walmart's not my sponsor this month. It's like I paid $39. Whatever. I can guarantee you it is not designed as well as the bag of holding. The clasps and everything, really, really heavy duty. Anyway, just wanted to show you that. So let's see, who else do we have in chat before I jump on into the news? Lord Cost 2000. Sarah D is with us. She says, glitter is forever. Forever. Let's see. TSL Frontman is also with us in chat. I believe this might be a first-time visit in chat for them. Brent Norton is hanging on out with us, too. As I mentioned, Shauner's here pitching Walmart stock or something like that. Kevin King is also hanging with the gang, as is Chris Lundgren. All right, let's get on into the news, because now available in PDF is His Majesty the Worm. I got the skinny from Up Comus. I think that's how it's pronounced. The forest thickness is lessening, with room for paths of turned earth, rectangular pits, a whiteness as of mushrooms peeping from the ground. With horror, we see that the 13th terret that has underbrush is fertilized with half-withered corpses and fleshless bones. Why have you brought me, fool? This is a cemetery. And the fool says, pointing to the invertebrate fauna feeding in the graves, here a monarchy reigns, mightier than you. His Majesty the Worm is a new school game of old school sensibilities, a classic mega dungeon experience given fresh life through a focus on the mundanities and small moments of daily life inside the dungeon. The Game Master is given tools to create a mega dungeon called the Underworld. The players create adventures to explore the underworld in pursuit of their personal quests. Tarot cards are used as a randomizing element. Food, hunger, light, and inventory management are central to play, and actually fun. Tarot cards are used to create an action-packed combat system that ensures that all players have interesting choices every minute of combat. No downtime. The game has robust procedures. Characters adventure in the underworld, rest and role-playing driven camping scenes, and plot long-term schemes in the city at the center of the wide world. The wide world of sports. No, just the wide world. The relationships between companions, called bonds, powers the rest and recovery mechanic of the game. Role-playing drives the game forward, and you'll find everything you need to play. You just need to add a tarot deck. The 411-page hardcover with PDF is currently out of stock at Exalted Funeral. It was in stock when I was planning, I think it was in stock when I was planning on sharing this news piece. But strangely enough, Exalted Funeral runs out of stuff like really fast sometimes. It will be back in stock. It'll carry an MSRP of $60. Or if you want to just grab the PDF alone, you can do that right now over at DriveThruRPG for $40. Gotta say, this looks pretty interesting. looks kind of different. So, one thing that kind of throws me off a little bit is using the tarot deck. From my experience, and I was talking about the Cosmere role-playing game the other night, and I said, it comes across as maybe the mechanics are going to be clunky. And someone had commented, did I mean crunchy? And it was like, no, I mean clunky, because it was using D20 mechanics, and then there was like a plot die, and there's a drama deck. And from experience, I find when you start mixing a bunch of different mechanics together, like dice and cards and things like that, things kind of break down. A great example of that is Torg Eternity. Cool game, really fun setting, system, clunky as hell because it's dice and cards and things like that. This is different. It does not use dice, only the tarot deck. Kind of curious about this. Flaming Heron's with us in chat. Good to see you, Flaming Heron. So is John Muscola. So it looks like chat is off and running. Sweet. On to our next news piece. Arriving next week following a successful Kickstarter is the campaign builder Castles and Crowns from our pals over at Kobold Press. Here's the latest. Rule your realm. Campaign Builder Castles and Crowns provides a majestic homebrew toolkit for your tabletop game. Create legendary rulers, mythic kingdoms, opulent palaces, and imposing fortresses down to the last detail with a host of tables and guides to enhance your world. Campaign Builder Castles and Crowns brings you everything you need. Transform a dynastic game by awarding royal titles, creating factions, making war, and forging peace. Create detailed NPCs to populate your kingdoms, including rulers, courtiers, generals, jesters, and many more. Enhance your kingdom-level campaign with interesting and functional castles, manors, and palaces. The new player options, magic items, sample kingdoms, and spells for courtly characters. And then you can record everything for posterity using the downloadable kingdom character sheets. Create the ultimate fantasy realm with Campaign Builder, Castles, and Crowns. The 272-page Campaign Builder, Castles, and Crowns carries an MSRP of $49.99. It hits stores next week. You can grab the PDF alone over at Drive-Thru RPG right now for $34.99. This is supposed to be on its way. So we should be seeing this shortly. Fingers crossed. I know I talked to the marketing person for Kobold Press at Gen Con, and she had said they had considered sending these out before they left for Gen Con, and then thought, you know what, it's probably a better idea to not do that in case there were any problems. So, very nice. Kevin R. Smith is pointing out that, I guess, Modifius Entertainment has pointed out that Star Trek Adventures first edition books are going to be available at a discount until supplies run out. And, of course, we already know that second edition Star Trek Adventures is out. It is out in PDF. I think I just shared a news piece about the toolkit. I believe it's next week that they're slated to be arriving in stores, but some folks already scored copies when they went to Gen Con. I did not. I didn't talk to Modifius Entertainment. We're trying to see if we can get copies of the new Star Trek Adventures to take a peek at. Moving right along, let's talk about saving some money because Bundle of Holding and World's Largest RPGs have teamed for the return of the world's largest bundle. Here's the deets on the deal. Adventurer. This revived May 2019 bundle of tabletop D20 system fantasy role-playing supplements and adventures includes the world's largest dungeon and world's largest city. So once again, Bundle of Holding is calling it, that's right, fight 'em, the world's largest bundle. A peerless 900-page mega dungeon originally published in 2006 by Alderac Entertainment Group and now published by World's Largest RPGs. The world's largest dungeon has 1,600 encounters. That's it. A dungeon crawl that can entertain you and your players for years. The city with its, get ready for this, 250,000 humans, dwarves, elves, humanoids, and others fits smoothly in most fantasy campaign worlds. And this offer adds the stunning 400-page ultimate toolbox, plus comprehensive D20 source books like War, Empire, Gods, Relics, Dungeons, and, yeah, you guessed it, Dragons. More than 4,000 pages of fantasy gaming goodness. Yep, the world's largest bundle. For just $12.95, you'll get all 9 titles in this revived offer's starter collection, which has a retail value of $72, as DRM-free PDFs, including the Ultimate Toolbox, the D20 sourcebooks Empire, War, Mercenaries, Gods, Magic, and Relics, and the scenario collections with the rather non-exciting titles Adventure 1 and Adventure 2. And if you pay more than the current threshold price of $26.33, you'll level up and also get this Revival's entire world's largest bonus collection with 4 more titles worth an additional $75, including the world's largest dungeon, world's largest city, and a catchy pairing of 2 more D20 source books, Dungeons and, yes, the aforementioned Dragons. Earlier this year, Studio 2 Publishing acquired the entire Alderac D20 line. The new owner has big plans to kickstart a new Redux edition of World's Largest Dungeon, quote, expanded with all new content by a host of master role-playing game designers and an epic contest for you and other aspiring game designers to contribute to the project in print, end quote. Get up to speed with this massive dungeon crawl and the many other great books in this revived offer. Now, these savings will run through September 4th. 10% of your payment after gateway fees will be donated to Direct Relief. Kind of interesting. I'm kind of curious how these did originally. Because remember, D20, sort of there was such a glut of content for D20 that, I don't know, it's not well remembered by some. I wasn't involved. I didn't pick up any D20 stuff. I was just running Call of Cthulhu like I have for decades. But this does look kind of interesting. The one thing I think about, like with mega dungeons, most of the time, I think mega dungeons are far more interesting in theory than they are in execution. Because I don't think too many people outside of like Dave Arneson, actually complete a mega dungeon campaign. Chris Burkhardt says, speaking of mega dungeons, they just picked up Barrow Maze. That's a well-regarded mega dungeon. So Tessie Trekkie says, oh gods, I remember these books. $13 is far too much to pay for this material. So tell us how you really feel. Mike is with us in chat, as is our pal Steven from Roll for Combat, who I do believe shared a new video today. If I remember right, I think the topic was no one's going to use the new rules for Dungeons & Dragons 5.5. I know. I'm pushing my luck with that, aren't I? Just please stop calling it that. It's Dungeons and Dragons 2024. Quit calling it 5.5. You're mean. Kevin King says, had some issues with Star Trek Adventures first edition. They reprinted and revised the rules in the Klingon book and then evolved them again for Captain's Log, which is the solitaire RPG. It's more of a journaling game, in my opinion. That's why I didn't do a review of it. I didn't really care for it. But then I'm not a journaling game player. So yes, Steven says, yes, they did. They did do a new video. So Shouter says, great nerd voice. Funny enough, my best friend Elliot Miller and I, since we've been friends for, my gosh, now 43 years. Jeez. We have catchphrases and stuff like that. And one of them is, if you're making fun of the other person, it's like, stop it, you're hurting me. I don't know. Michael Burrell is hanging with us in chat. Might be a first-time visit in chat, not necessarily recognizing the nickname or the name. Bacon Gaming is with us. So, yes, Bacon Gaming points out, it's actually Dungeons & Dragons 2024. I know. Not D&D 5.5 pushes their glasses up on their nose. We'll talk about something real quick after the news regarding that. All right, moving right along. A third-party Mutant Crawl Classics adventure from Space Penguin Inc. and author Forrest Aguirre caught my eye. I've got to scoop on at the Mutants of Madness. Long before the Great Disaster, before human beings began to evolve, the dread Elder Things ruled Terra AD. In order to further their scientific experiments and exploration, they created a race of amorphous flying blobs to do their bidding. I think we all know what those are. In time, these strange creatures grew resentful, more intelligent, and more resourceful. All at once, they erupted in rebellion, causing a great war between the two species. The Elder Things prevailed, but not without significant losses. Their civilization was almost entirely wiped out, yet a few who were able to imprison their erstwhile servants remained. Due to their weakened position, they were attacked by other enemies who effectively sent their civilization into utter ruin, but not completely. At the Mutants of Madness is an MCC role-playing game adventure designed for 4 to 6 7th-level player characters. It concerns the retrieval of an artifact of mighty power that will ensure the safety of the Seeker's village. However, the terrors faced in retrieving the artifact are beyond anything the Seekers have seen before, because they'll pass through the Great Radiation Barrier into the Devil Lands and beyond. Terrors from long before the Great Disaster, indeed, from long before the evolutionary rise of humanity itself, await. Inside, you'll find travel procedures and random encounters for the Devil Lands, from the Cronenbergian Crouchlings. I like that, Cronenbergian. Interesting. I have never heard that adjective before. And of course, yes, I understand. It's referring to David Cronenberg, but still. To the water-stealing Selene Serpent, the Great Radiation Barrier, an ever-fluctuating no man's land of strange occurrences. There's also over a dozen key locations with merchants, factions, and unique encounters, and more. The 24-page saddle-stitched softcover with PDF is available over at Space Penguin Inc. for $20. Yay. Chris Lundgren says, yes, MCC. They approve that I'm sharing this news piece. Now, this is a third-party product. This is not from Goodman Games, but You can buy it over at Space Penguin Inc. You could also buy it if you want to go over to Goodman Games. I figured since it's not truly a Goodman Games release, I'll actually share the link to the publisher of it. Yes. Chris Lundgren asks, will I put the link in the show notes because they would buy this? The reality is I never do that. I do that if I'm like sharing a review or something. Tomorrow morning, go over to thegaminggang.com. There will be a news piece. It's all loaded up. It's ready to go. It will have the link there for you to go and grab this adventure if you're interested in it. Chris Lundgren's curious if it comes with pre-gens. I don't know. It does not mention that it does, but then again, it doesn't mention that it doesn't. Roger Perdome is with us in chat. Very good, very good. Steven says, man, do not get on Jeff's bad side. Hey, I did share a story not that long ago, how I am not someone to trifle with. Final news piece of the evening, available in print and PDF from Mongoose Publishing, is the Paranoia 404 Compendium. Here's what I know. Like most role-playing games, missions, aka adventures, are the bread and butter of Paranoia. After all, you cannot play without a mission to run through. But what about non-mission ideas? What about GMs who are brave, wise, and insane enough to make their own missions or want content to drop into their games? The 404 Compendium includes central casting, a collection of ready-made NPCs to drop into missions to make things even more deranged. Did the players pull a fast one and want to chat to a non-existing NPC? Guess what? They exist now. There's my metal chums. 7 more common bots get their own NPC write-ups and several variations, as well as more bots than you can shake a 5-pronged plug at. Also, joybots scare us a little. There's not so simple. Players starting to get a bit cocky. Keep your head out of the gutter, citizen. Here are ways to complicate. Took me a second for that to click. Head out of the gutter because they're cocky. Toilet humor. Then, well, it's not really toilet humor, but you know what I mean. A little innuendo there. Here are ways to complicate things during mission-specific tasks like bureaucracy. Wow, that's fun. And how service groups can ruin the troubleshooter's plans. Traders a-poppin'. Top 5 most wanted traders in Alpha Complex. Each comes with full stats, lackeys, locations, and mission prompts. With a bit of work, Game Masters can have missions involving Major Omega, Wooter, and more. Keep trading on, trader. In-character flyers for every secret society to hand out to players or mine for ideas. As an added bonus, each group also gets 3 hideouts where they can plan their nefarious plots against all that the computer says is good and pure. Lastly, there's Puppet Strings, a character generation minigame that ups the shenanigans so players have even more reasons to be at each other's throats at the start of the game. The 404 Compendium, 6 parts, 1 title, and a metric ton of treason. The 138-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $49.99, or you can grab just the PDF alone over at Drive-Thru RPG for $29.99. I say it all the time. I like the concept of paranoia. I just get the feeling that it's more difficult to pull off than it comes across. That's, because I picked up the original Paranoia and never ran it. Yeah, another game that I picked up. The core rules, bunch of splats. Man, I just had money to blow back in the day. But never ran it. And it was always an entertaining read. The reality is, I don't think I'm the sort of game master who could pull this off. I think I could pull it off as a player, just don't think I could pull it off as a game master. I mean, yeah, we do snarky stuff and, kind of silly stuff every once in a while. Even in Call of Cthulhu games, there's usually a moment of levity or more than a moment. But as far as, doing a satire, tongue-in-cheek, don't think it would be that easy for me to pull off. I think I would have a lot of fun playing it, though. But that is the newest Paranoia release. I got to be honest, I'd like to actually take a look at this. I think it's called the Perfect Edition now. So there is that. Ars Fabula is with us, as is Heldane616. I believe it's the first time visit for Heldane616 in chat. Welcome aboard. So I was just talking about Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to go visit Drive-Thru RPG or Storyteller's Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, what have you, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do go a long way to keeping thegaminggang.com around. No joke. Really do. Really, really do. I also want to point out that if you're going to a website, like for an example, the vast majority of the banner ads that you'll see will be for Drive-Thru RPG. Even if you're going to Storyteller's Vault, you can go to Drive-Thru RPG, scroll to the bottom of the page, click on Storyteller's Vault, and that affiliate code will transfer over to the other site. So just because it's usually only the Drive-Thru RPG banner ads does not mean that the affiliate code does not work elsewhere. So that's how you go about doing that. Bacon Gaming says, I think Paranoia would be best played straight. I haven't played myself, but playing it straight would likely make it more funny after the fact, and playing it straight allows for actual role play. Well, I think one of the things that it's got going for it is that everybody's got clones. So when you buy the farm, you've got somebody else to take on over. Playing Some Games is with us in chat, another first-timer in chat. Welcome aboard. How is the One Ring? Is it good? Yeah, I've reviewed it. I like it. I like the second edition better than the first. It is rules light, and it does have mechanics in it that kind of throw some people, especially if they're coming from, say, like 5e, like the journey rules, the fellowship phase, those kind of things. So if that's the case, you might want to consider taking a look at the Lord of the Rings role-playing from Free League Publishing. All it is the One Ring, and it's all ported for 5e with, new mechanics and stuff like that. So, and that's very, very popular. In fact, I think it outsells the One Ring, to be honest. And the Moria book is excellent. I just reviewed that. You can see that right back here. Anyway, if you like this video, by all means, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, you just like what we do, you can always swing on over to paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Hits the spot. And thankfully, there are folks out there who use those banner ads and or visit paypal.me. There are some folks out there who make not small donations, such as our friends Joshua Edwards. We also have the Madman, Agile Monk. Big tip of the cap to those folks too. But Thanks to everyone who helps keep the gaming gang around. I should also point out, I really don't mention this, but I know some folks kind of like, yeah, well, financially, I can't really do anything to support you, and that's fine. I don't have an issue there. It's like, you don't have to buy a ticket to get on this ride. Right. It'd be like a B ticket anyway. So you could pick those out of the trash to get on this ride. But what you can do is you can tell other people about the gaming gang. You can tell about the channel. You can tell them about the website. That helps out a lot. It really, really does. Sweet. So we're going to get into tonight's topic in just a couple of moments, but I did want to kind of address a little bit that was going on in chat about the new edition of Dungeons & Dragons, which is being referred to as Dungeons & Dragons 2024. Personally, I find that clunky. I don't know. Why am I using clunky tonight? Well, it is kind of clunky. It just doesn't flow, doesn't roll off the tongue. Plus, come 2026, are you still going to be saying Dungeons & Dragons 2024? No, people aren't going to do that. So if you notice, if you have checked some reviews that are floating around out there, so there you go. Steven from Roll for Combat got that ticket reference. Yes. I got to be honest, you know what? I wouldn't be shocked if back when I was a kid and Disneyland and Disney World had the book of tickets and you only had so many like e-tickets, which were top of the line rides. I bet we went on more rides having to have those tickets than you do now when you go to Disney World. I mean, I've heard stories of people spending the day at Disney World and riding 4 rides. I'd be like, putting a gun to my head. And I like Disney World, although I haven't been there in about 25 years. I don't have any beef with Disney. I'm not like my best friend Elliot, who's like a Disney file. I'm sort of like, yeah, okay. If I catch, a movie here and there, I'm like, all right. Oh, that was okay. Keldon's with us in chat. Keldon says Jeff's about to start the Edition War segment. No, not really. I don't, I have nothing to say about 2nd, 3rd, 3.5, or 4th because I really didn't have any experience with it. I had to laugh. Somebody had commented on my review of the player's handbook for Dungeons & Dragons 5.5. Like, who's this asshole? Guy even says he doesn't run Dungeons & Dragons. I have to run Dungeons & Dragons to review a book? No, I don't have to. Not when I've been involved with this hobby for over 40 years and have read literally probably close to 1,000 role-playing releases. I don't think I need to run D&D to be able to review a book. Clean One RX says, Jeff, and I love Disney World. Haven't been there in 25 years. I don't have a beef with it. You know, people out there like, oh yeah, well, I've never been to Disneyland, but fuck that place. Fuck Disneyland. It's like, but you've never been there. What do you hate about it? It's like people who hate Disney. It's like, okay, I mean, come on. They're just another huge corporation. This one just happens to focus mostly on entertainment. So Haldane 616 says, I'm quite excited. Only been playing tabletop role-playing games for about 7 years, so it's my first edition war. Chris Lundgren says, Buddy the Cockatiel says 5.5, 5.5, 5.5. So all I was going to say is if you've seen some of these reviews, a lot of outlets. In fact, I think Polygon was one of them. Not that I wouldn't put a lot of faith in their review, but they said the same thing. It is a new edition. As much as Wizards of the Coast wants to try to sell you the whole idea of everything that's come before for 5e is going to easily port it over to 2024, it's a new edition. There are, big changes. So, all right, some folks are saying they're getting a bunch of lag. I do see we've got some dropped frames tonight. I will point out that we've got some really bad weather rolling through the area here. And it does look like it's kind of jumping up and down. But it looks as if I think we've stopped dropping the frames. Maybe. I don't know. So Leonardo Elmitis says, I'm sure I mispronounced that. Geez, Jeff, pay the internet provider. It helps, Yeah, we do pay them. We certainly do. We do pay them. But that's not necessarily going to help us. So, yeah, sometimes, let me go into here. Sometimes if I change our output, our kilobits per second, sometimes it'll kind of shake it up a little bit. Now, looks like it's kind of the same. It's kind of jumping around. But we have not dropped any other frames. So we may have hit a portion where it's just kind of messed up. So anyway, all I was saying is it is a new edition of Dungeons & Dragons, regardless what Wizards of the Coast says. And I actually like the book. There are parts of it I'm not a big fan of, one of which is the artwork. But I thought, well, if you like Dungeons & Dragons, it's solid. Pick it up. If you're interested in getting into Dungeons & Dragons, it's solid. Pick it up. Doesn't change my mind. I'm still not going to run Dungeons & Dragons. It's not my preferred fantasy role-playing game. All right. So that is that. Tonight's topic is the question, is Advanced Dungeons & Dragons still worth playing in 2024? And we will tackle that topic right after a brief intermission. All right, come on. What the hell is going on with this thing tonight? Maybe it's at Microsoft. Remember I said Microsoft did an update? I wouldn't be shocked. All right, here we go. A brief intermission.
did you have your last cup of Wilkins?
My last cup wasn't Wilkins.
He's had his last cup.
Run, baby, run. White water, where they're going is rough and dangerous. But these outboards can handle it. Boaterific outboards from Ideal. Boaterific outboards that go like bandits. They're on top of the most wanted list. Kick them over and kick up a lot of excitement. Race them or take them out water skiing. Because now, you can get Boaterific water skiers and drivers to go with your Boaterific outboards. Boaterific, the outboards that go like bandits. Boaterific outboards from Ideal.
And now, on with the show.
So I guess we are in PowerPoint mode, is what some folks are mentioning. I am taking a peek here. All right. So we are seeing a little bit of packet loss, but it's actually on the download. So that would mean there shouldn't be any issue with the upload. But I do see that we are, bouncing around all over the place as far as our kilobits per second. So we're going to see what we can just do. Just going to, fight our way through this, because to be honest, it's looking like this is a YouTube thing, which we get from time to time. We do have issues where I think what you're looking at is that the streaming server, because YouTube's only got like 2, of course they're huge, but as far as the Kevin R. Smith said the stream just dropped and ended for them. We're still going. So I don't know. Sometimes we get this happening during the live stream and then the replay isn't so bad. I'm kind of getting an idea that it's probably, one thing I will tell you, it is not coming from me, because if it was like on my end and the stream ended for you, it would show that I dropped. It would show, hey, I don't have a connection anymore. So, no. But yeah, I ran 2 packet tests, lost packet tests. And they are coming back as far as our upload. No issues whatsoever. In fact, just ran another one. It's showing nothing. So Kevin King says this is nigh unwatchable. So let's see. Yeah, I'm sorry, gang. It's a YouTube thing. I have no control over this. So everybody is basically saying in chat, do a refresh. Do a control F5. That should clear your cache and see what happens. Keith Ulu says they stepped it down to 480p and it's still choppy. It is not showing any new dropped frames. So I'll make one more change here. Yeah, Flaming Heron says just one of those nights. Yeah, I mean, and it happens. We see this from time to time with YouTube. Like I said, there's only like 2 choices for you to upload live streams to YouTube. So I'm going to change the output again, which I really don't like having to do, because it's going to lower the quality of the stream. I know this is such great content, right? Watching me, look at, go, no, okay, wait. It's like, oh, excellent. Wonderful. Kevin King says dropping down to 480 seems to have helped. Mark Morrison's with us in chat. So is Bear Beard, who would ask, what's my preferred fantasy tabletop role-playing game? I've got a few. I have a few that I really like. Dungeon Crawl Classics, Castles and Crusades. I like Shadow Dark. I think that's pretty cool. OSC. All depends on what we're looking to achieve as far as with the campaign or the adventure or what have you. All right, one last peek to see what's going on here. Yeah, it's looking like things may have straightened out a bit. Hey, Kevin King's getting another political ad. All right. Smoking Pots is with us in chat, says this seems fine. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, gang. But I will say that the drop frames have kind of like stopped at a certain point. It is showing like 10%. So, but like I said, this is not looking like it's on my end. Crispy says it's working good now. YouTube's pumping out ads on everything right now. All right, so let's get down to tonight's topic. And it is the question, is Advanced Dungeons & Dragons still worth playing in 2024? And as we discuss this, and by all means, if you're watching live in chat, if it's not a slideshow right now as you're watching, I'd like to get some comments from you. And of course, for those of you out there who are watching after the fact, share your thoughts in the comment section also. Yes. Smoking Pot says, as soon as I said their name, it froze. Not showing any drop frames now. So I think bringing it down a little bit has helped. So as far as, lowering the quality of the stream, the video. All right. So what we're going to do as we discuss this is I'm actually going to kind of flip through the different core books for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, starting with the Player's Handbook. So, as far as Crafty Matt is with us with a super chat saying, hello, TGG. Well, hello, Crafty Matt. Welcome aboard. All right. So, I'm sure there are probably some folks out there who are going to watch this who may have never actually seen the interiors of the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons books. I'm not going to look at each and every page, but I do want to give you kind of a look at these books. And I will say, if you're looking to get original copies, it can be pretty pricey. In fact, it just seems to get more and more pricey all the time, especially with the new edition. Oh, I'm sorry. Dungeons & Dragons 2024, right? So I lucked out. I got my copies, about 5 years ago, maybe even more than that. So it is pretty interesting read. I gotta say that one thing I appreciate about the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons books are they are not written for people who do not understand what a thesaurus is, or who do not understand how to glean the definition of a word by way of the context it's being used. I think that's a dead skill for a lot of people nowadays. Because there is no figuring out words based on the context they're being used in a sentence. I don't know. Flaming Heron says, look at all that text. All that high Gygaxian, as Kevin R. Smith points out. But if you are interested in getting original copies of AD&D books, Player's Handbook kind of beat up, probably about $50-$60, about the same, and 5e D&D. And I would have to say that the way I look at it, the biggest difference is that starting player characters and through most of their adventuring career, you're looking at the characters are above average to start off with. So they're sort of regular folks who become heroes or might be anti-heroes, all depending on the alignment that you and your group chose. Whereas in 5e, player characters starting out, they start out as heroes far beyond the average Joe and Jane in the Forgotten Realms, and they become super heroic. So that really doesn't take place in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons until you start really getting into the high level play. So you're looking at about 14th, 15th level adventures. Suddenly you're looking at kind of more super heroic. But as you can see, even though there is artwork throughout, it is mainly text. And this is all player-facing stuff. This is spells, character creation, a bit of the mechanics of the game. Something else that's really important to note about Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is that it's about challenges that the characters face. So it's mechanically pretty basic. And the game revolves around players and their problem-solving abilities as well as their tactical skills. It's not necessarily just about rolling dice. So I do have to kind of chuckle because Gary Gygax, my copy here's got somebody's name written in it. But the book itself, it's for a book that's 40 some years old. When did this print run come out? 79. So you are looking at 45 years old. For a 45-year-old book, this is holding up pretty good. It's pretty good. So Kevin R. Smith says, according to multiple sources, they shredded multiple white box booklets that would be worth thousands of dollars online combined today. Huh. That's interesting. That I did not know. I know about some stuff, but, like Palace of the Silver Princess going into a landfill and stuff like that. Anyway, so probably out of the 3 core books for AD&D, I think the book that probably is the most useful nowadays is actually the Dungeon Master's Guide. Because yes, there are all these different rules about running the game and various different aspects of the game. But there's also a lot of information in here about having the right approach for Dungeons and Dragons. And I was going to say, I kind of chuckle because historically, Gary Gygax said that the reason why they wanted to do Advanced Dungeons and Dragons when they already had Dungeons and Dragons that was out there was because they knew that like OD&D and basic D&D, people were homebrewing rules left and right. So Gary Gygax wanted to have an advanced version of the game where it was sort of like, okay, we're going to lay everything out here. We're going to have rules for a lot of different things. And that way it's consistent throughout. And they wanted to do like tournaments. So they couldn't really do tournaments if you had umpteen different dungeon masters all using their own homebrewed various different rule sets. So that's one of the reasons why Gary Gygax said why they were doing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. One other one, which I just kind of touched on, was they wanted a uniformity to the game so that if you went to somebody's house and you were playing with a new dungeon master, that the game would be similar rules-wise, or at least very close to being what you were already used to, and that dungeon masters could kind of agree on a central point. But like really cool stuff like the campaign, this information through here, I think holds up really well. Granted, once again, Gygax busted out his thesaurus. You'd think he was kind of Lovecrafting it as far as his language use, but it's not terrible. But here's a real reason why they did Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. They did Advanced Dungeons and Dragons to cut Dave Arneson out. There we go. Kevin R. Smith just said it. Yep, that's why they did AD&D, was because they were creating a new game, which of course had a lot of similarities to D&D, but there are a lot of differences with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons compared to OD&D or basic D&D. Now, a lot of folks out there, I always hear that their favorite edition of Dungeons and Dragons is BECMI. Isn't that it? I think that's it. I think that's the acronym. And they prefer to play that as opposed to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which is really wild if you think about it. Something like having a basic D&D, advanced D&D, and then having expert and immortal and things like that down the line. I don't think any company would do something like that nowadays because it's just cannibalizing from each other, right? So it's sort of like, well, AD&D is pulling away. Yes, okay, so it is BECMI. Once again, you got to remember, come about 1982, I was gone as far as Dungeons and Dragons. I didn't necessarily have anything against it. I just was running Call of Cthulhu, and some of my friends were running different role-playing games. Like, I mean, we still did some TSR stuff. Top Secret was pretty popular with us when I was in high school. But the treasure information is very useful. Of course, we've got Appendix N, which shows where a lot of the inspiration for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and D&D in general took place. And it's funny, I have read a majority of what's in Appendix N, but these appendices are also very, very useful. And once again, you can see that this is packed with information. This is not the TSR of the years where it's like, oh, look at all the artwork. And there's hardly any gameable content in here. DB says their group also ran out of patience for Dungeons and Dragons around 1982. Here we go. Famous Dave Trampier, isn't that how his last name was pronounced? Very famous piece of artwork. I've actually used this piece of artwork for a thumbnail for the show. So just kind of giving you a look here. Then we're going to take a look at the monster manual, which artwork is all over the place with that. Artwork's kind of all over the place for the Dungeon Master's Guide too, but it's a bit more uniform than the Monster Manual, I never was like a big fan of the comedic artwork in the D&D books. I was like, okay. All right. So that is the Dungeon Master's Guide. So let's talk about, could you play this right now? Yes, of course you could. And one of the selling points for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is the amount of content that's there. Chris Ledger says, Satanic Panic art there, Jeff. Yeah, you notice how I made sure to give you a little side boob there. Yeah, I planned on that. No, I didn't. Classic cover. I love the Castles and Crusades homage cover. It's really well done. It's very cool. Same exact monsters and layout, things like that. So one thing I will mention as far as if you wanted to go and pick up original books, tons of print runs. So even the Player's Handbook was in print for first edition. It was in print all the way to 1989. So it's not as if, these were only out a certain amount of time. Now, of course, in 1989, the cover art was the Jeff Easley art, which is really cool. It's actually far more professional than the artwork we see on the original books, but just don't have that same nostalgia for me. But one thing that you have to pay attention if you're picking up these original books are the spines. Because most of the time, these spines are just absolutely blown out from use. So thankfully, the copies that I've got, they're not, pristine. One issue that you're going to find with most of these is the corners. There's wear on the corners. There's not much you can do when these books are 40 plus years old. But I'm happy with these. I got these just for the nostalgia for someone else's name. And here, that's something that kids do all the time. So here's our monster manual. And some of the artwork in here is really good. And some of the artwork is, really? Seriously? Jody Connor is with us, popping on into chat. Good to see you. Hopefully I've said hello to just about everybody who's in chat with us. But one aspect that I always like about the Monster Manual is that the information's concise. And the information is fairly useful. Now, one thing that we see these days with 5e D&D is that you kind of have to parse the attributes to understand how to utilize the monsters. And I say it all the time. There's a reason why the monsters know what they're doing, and more the monsters know what they're doing are so popular, because just looking through the current monster manual, it's not very clear how you would utilize the monsters in combat, and even in a lot of ways outside of combat. Now, it's not as if this is spelling out, oh, yes, this is exactly how you'd use a doppelganger. No, not at all. But we also see that it's very concise. All the information is, boom, right there for us. It's not 2 pages of backstory about how doppelgangers evolved and stuff like that. And you're like, yeah, okay, that's cool. That's interesting lore. But how the fuck do I use this thing at the game table? So, Playing Some Games says, I love the small stat blocks. The blocks on 5e is too much. Makes me not want to run it again. CNC is what I use now. Speaking of Castles and Crusades and our good friends over at Troll Lord Games, there are about a dozen Castles and Crusades books, which are heading my way. I don't think they've shipped yet. Now, if you were watching the other night, I was talking about how they were going to send me the 3 main books. I don't want to say core books because the Castle Keeper's Guide is all optional stuff. You don't need it to run the game. You just need the Player's Handbook and Monsters and Treasures. So their relatively new marketing person who is helping out Chuck, who's been with them forever, she had mentioned, oh, hey, let me know what prints, what print editions you've got, because I'll get you the new books out. So I thought, oh, wow, it's not remastered. I forget what it is, what it's called, that they just did the Kickstarter for, that they're, releasing a new print run that's supposed to be cleaned up. They're supposed to have gotten rid of those typos and grammatical errors that have been in the books for years. So I know I'm excited about that. There you go. Flaming Heron points it out. They're reforged. Thank you. So I thought that's what she was talking about sending out, but I didn't think they were out yet. And she wrote me back today saying, oh yeah, you know what? Those print editions are the most recent. So she didn't need to send me those, but we are going to get the reforged when they come out, to my knowledge. But as you can see, some of the artwork's pretty good. The Griffin, I like the Griffin there. Hellhound's pretty good. Harpy, Halflings, herd animals. So yes, you can easily utilize Advanced Dungeons and Dragons at the game table today because mechanically the game still works. It works fine. Big selling point is how much content's out there. And how much content's out there, and it's not just dog shit thrown out there to sell. And I'm not talking about Wizards of the Coast. I'm talking about all the third-party content. I'm also not talking about Roll for Combat either. I'm talking about, like, you go to Dungeon Masters Guild and, they've got 1 million 5e releases out there. And, most of them are, I don't mean, well, actually, I should say most. Most of them are not very good. Some of them are fantastic, don't get me wrong. But there is a lot of swill out there for 5e Dungeons and Dragons, and I assume that's going to remain the case as well. So, DB asked me not to flip past the Mimic. Okay. There we go. There's the Mimic with turning into a fist to punch the guy. Take a little bit of that with you. Huh? Bam. Yes, the Mind Flayer, the Minotaur. But you can pick these up in PDF over at Dungeon Masters Guild, DMs Guild. In PDF, they're $9.99. If you want print on demand, they run anywhere from $17.99, which is the Player's Handbook. This would be $21.99 if I remember correctly. And the Dungeon Master's Guide is $24.99. Now, they are the reprint, the collector's edition covers. So that which came out in around 2011, 2012, somewhere around there. So that is the cover art. So it's not the classic art. And it's too bad you can't really choose. And I also want to point out, if you go that route, if you're like, hey, you know what? I want the physical books. I think it'd be kind of cool. It's okay. I don't mind the covers. There are standard hardcover and then there's premium hardcover. Do not get premium hardcovers for a book that's in black and white. And that goes for anything on Drive-Thru RPG or the One Bookshelf sites, which are print on demand. And the reason behind that is there's absolutely no difference. No difference as far as the black and white interiors. If it's a color book, yeah, you probably want to go premium. But as far as these D&D books, no. Save yourself money. Because I think the premium edition of the Dungeon Master's Guide is like $50 or something. Don't do it. Same exact book. It's what I understand. It's what I have been told. So just kind of taking a peek here. So this is the Dungeon Master. This is the Monster Manual. And once again, this is another famous image from AD&D. So talking about if you want to play AD&D, if you want to utilize the various different adventures that were published for AD&D, if you're looking at maybe say the Judges Guild material that was out there as well, what I might recommend is that you go the way of Osric. Ooh, were you surprised by this, everybody? Now, they're always talking about they're going to do a new edition of this. This, I believe, is just the first edition. It is not I think the last one that came out was 2.2. And there's been talk about kickstarting a new edition of this. I don't think it's ever really gotten off the ground. So as far as the rules presentation, this is almost exactly AD&D. Almost. There's very tiny differences in various respects. But everything, the presentation is just clearer because we don't have the high Gygaxian that you have to parse. So we don't have that. The PDF, absolutely free. Doesn't cost you anything. So it's got that going for it. The one thing that I would say as far as Osric, yes, as Flaming Heron points out, it's easier on the eyes. And I do see that Crafty Matt with a super chat says best reading order. Monster Manual as an intro, Player's Handbook, skip the spells, Dungeon Master's Guide, then go Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, spells. Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's sections are mirrored for easy reading and side-by-side study and reference. Good point. Very nice point. So one aspect of Osric that is kind of a negative is it's very dry. It's very dryly presented. It is not like the Dungeon Master's Guide. It's not necessarily conversational in tone, but it's not just case point, case point, case point, and so forth. It is technical writing, but it's not extremely technical writing. This has a little less personality. But once again, it's easier to understand the core mechanics and everything. And the presentation is very nice. So we've got that. If you're maybe interested in, and this is more a traditional AD&D. Chris Lundgren points out there's also a paperback version or softcover version of Osric. And Lord Cos 2000 says they got their copy for $40. That sounds about right. I think it's still about that. So JD Sewell 3002 is with us, or maybe it's JD Saul 3002 says the PDF is art free. That I did not know, to be honest. I did not know it was art-free. But if you notice, now we're into like the bestiary section. These entries are a bit fuller than the monster manual. There's a bit more information in here. Once again, we're not looking at, 3-4 pages just to discuss, pixies. But we do get a little more info in this. Of course, keeping in mind anything that is copyright to Wizards of the Coast is not in here. So you will not see those creatures. You'll see the equivalency to them. So JD Soul 3002 says the Osric book quality is higher than print on demand. Oh yeah, this is nice. I will say that the more recent drive-through RPG print on demands are really nice. They have gotten better. So if I remember correctly, I think Osric actually goes through Lulu for their publishing of these books. So just kind of giving you an idea. Now, if you want to go a little more rules light in your approach, you might want to consider going with Old School Essentials, Advanced Fantasy, which is a 2-volume set. I have reviewed them, obviously enough. I've reviewed Osric too. But it's more built on basic expert than AD&D. But then what it does is it ports over concepts from AD&D, like class and race being separate, and the various different classes like paladins and rangers. Whereas with Dungeons and Dragons and Old School Essentials, it's just fighter, cleric, thief, wizard, done. If you're a halfling, that is your class. Kind of like, Dungeon Crawl Classics I talk about. So really nicely done. So once again, if this is something where you're like, you know what, I'd really like to do AD&D, but you don't want to be, reading the 40-plus-year-old books and like having to sit there and jump on the thesaurus.com to figure out what the hell is Gygax trying to say. This might be an option for you. It is very well done. And also, like I said, Old School Essentials, Advanced Fantasy. Basic Fantasy is a nice analog of AD&D with some more modern mechanics. That is also absolutely free. So Chris Lundgren says, Lulu took down the hardcover again. Only the paperback is available. If you want the hardcover, you got to go through Black Blade. I'm not familiar with them. So nice. Very nice. I don't know who made this. Taking a look. I don't see. Let's take a look at the back. Anything in back? No, that's the open game license. Nope. I thought maybe it would say, if this was Lulu. Now, I've had this for a while. So I've probably had this for about 4 years or so. Peaceful Porcupine's with us again. Good to see you. Thanks for swinging on in. So Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, as its own game, is still very much playable and very enjoyable, even in 2024. Yes, rules are a little different, right? A little crunchier in some ways. But as I happen to really enjoy, it's got more to do with player skill and player ideas and taking on challenges as opposed to just rolling dice or looking at your character sheet and asking your dungeon master, hey, what do I need to do? What am I rolling here? Or if you're like, okay, we need to parlay with these goblins, well, you're going to have to come up with something you're going to talk about with the goblins, not be like, okay, so I'm going to roll here. So that is something I really, really like. Should also point out that, to my knowledge, just about every first edition AD&D module is available through Dungeon Masters Guild. I took a peek, like T1, Village of Hamlet, is $4.99 for the PDF. And if you want it in print, it's $11.99. It's not a bad deal. I mean, really, that's a pretty good deal there. As far as like going online and trying to get some of the original modules, that's pretty dicey because as difficult as it is to find the core books in decent enough shape at a reasonable price, it's even harder for the modules because the modules were just paper. You know, they just had cardstock as far as their covers that just came off anyway because the map was on it. So Chandra says their players never ask what they need to roll, and I don't tell them. No, you shouldn't, because that ruins the fun. I say that all the time when we're talking about tabletop role-playing games. It's to me, it's boring if you're the game master and players are just staring at their character sheet. Like, I don't know, what skill should I use? Especially when you're looking at a game like D&D, where it's not like there's tons of skills, right? It's sort of like, and they are pretty abstract. They're pretty broad in what they cover. So, I don't know. Playing Some Games said they ordered reprints that got shipped yesterday. Reprints of what? I'm going to just go back to chat. Kind of curious if they're like the core books. So, Shiner says, there's no talking out of character in my games. I don't mind. That's fine. Not everybody wants to be a failed thespian at the game table. No second person talking either. Shiner is cracking the whip at their game table. Hey, speaking of game tables, I was talking about I'm going to look to run Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and it is open for folks out there to sign up for. So I was kind of diving into it and kind of surprised that they don't have like the encounters already created like Paizo does for their Pathfinder releases, where it's like, boom. It's like, wow, nice. And, you know, the monsters and NPCs and stuff are already populated on the battle map. Unless I'm missing it somehow. Somehow I missed it. Now, they do have maps and stuff like that, but they just don't have the encounters. So, not that that's, you know, changing my mind on it. I'm just kind of surprised. I was like, well, okay. So if you are interested in signing up for that, I am going to be charging $20 a session, and we will play a minimum 4 hours per session. And I will also arrange for you to get like copies of the core rulebook and PDF, get you like handouts, stuff like that, available to you that you can like check out offline. So you don't necessarily have to be connected to Foundry to do that. So just floating that out there. If you're interested in checking it out, just email me. So I've got a couple of people who are already interested in taking part. I think I'm going to do 5. I think 5 players, maybe 6. Because I know Elliot wants to play, but Elliot is not always available. So I'm thinking maybe do 6 people. We'll see. We'll find out. Flaming Heron's saying in running a particular release, yeah, it's 40. It is 40. All right. John Muscola is calling it a night. I am going to do that as well. So to answer tonight's question, yes, I think first edition Dungeons and Dragons works perfectly well for 2024. Got to be honest, if it was a toss-up between AD&D and 5e, I would probably lean towards AD&D simply because it scratches more role-playing game itches that I prefer, right? As I mentioned, I like my players have to figure something out to get past a trap, or they have to think of, okay, so what is the lie we're going to tell the city guards? Things like that, as opposed to, just rolling dice. Flaming Heron asks if I'm running Enemy Within. No, could be down the line. But we are going to start with some published adventures from Cubicle 7 Games because I don't have time to create a bunch of stuff. So we are going to go with that. So if it is somebody who is really familiar with all the Cubicle 7 releases, probably not going to be too entertained. So there you go. Flaming Heron says, as long as you did change it, I'd join or I'd spoil the game. Yeah, I don't want that. I don't want anybody spoiling that. All right. As I mentioned, that's it for this time out. Once again, big thank you to our sponsor this month, Rollacrit. Hooray. We took a look at the bag of holding earlier in the show. It is mighty impressive, and looks like it's going to hold up to a lot of abuse. So there's that. Anyway, if you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, a bigger thank you, because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company too. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for watching any of the nearly 2,000 videos here on the YouTube channel. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube, including the new reviews of Starfinder and Pathfinder releases that Sammy has provided, and a brand new one this morning. So, and they're all meeting her approval too. So that's pretty cool. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Enjoy the rest of the week. I'll be back on Tuesday. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you very much for watching. And until I see you next time, certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming. Oh, you know what? I forgot to tell you, subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Ring the bell. How could I have forgotten that? I'm already thinking about Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, because when I wrap up the show, I'm going to go dig around in the Foundry module again. Oh, and I should also point out, don't miss, I will have my review of Cthulhu by Gaslight's Investigator's Handbook this weekend. So be sure to tune in for that. Anyway, until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.